What's up, everyone? So I was watching First Take on ESPN this morning, and Stephen A. Smith, along with the entire panel, had this really detailed film breakdown segment analyzing how the New York Knicks look completely different under new head coach Mike Brown. The crew was going through game film from the season opener and breaking down specific plays that show just how dramatically this team's identity has changed. As you could see in the footage they were showing, the Knicks had their starting five on the floor, and Stephen A. mentioned he had actually reported about a day before the game started that Jericho Sims would draw the start at center. The reason the coaching staff went with Sims is just because they want to have familiarity within the defensive scheme, and Sims plays the most similarly to Mitchell Robinson's style of any player on the roster. That's why, if anyone was wondering, Mike Brown went with Sims over starting Deuce McBride in a smaller lineup. Hey, what's up, everyone? Before we dive into everything I have for you today, I need to ask you something that takes literally 1 second but makes a massive impact. That like button right there? Hitting it right now would help me more than you could imagine. I know you're eager to get into all this content, but real quick, just smash that like button. It's such a simple thing, but it's honestly the biggest way you can support this channel and help us reach more fans who are hungry for this kind of content. Trust me, every single like pushes this video to more people. So do me that quick favor right now. But in this particular film breakdown session, the First Take crew specifically wanted to talk extensively about Mikal Bridges because Stephen A.'s biggest takeaway overall from watching the game was Mikal's aggressiveness attacking the basket. Bridges went 6 for 11 from the field, scoring 16 points in the opener. Stephen A. said Mikal's stats didn't necessarily blow you away or anything like that. It was a typical solid Mikal Bridges game. But it's the fact that Bridges got off to such a strong start and was actively looking for his shot throughout. And nobody on the entire roster worked harder than Mikal during training camp and in the preseason just to get to where he's at mentally and physically. Of course, Bridges heard all the chatter and criticism from fans and media. When you trade 5 first-round picks to go out and acquire a player of Bridges' caliber, of course there are massive expectations. Stephen A. said Mikal wasn't disappointing last season, but he genuinely didn't live up to what Knicks fans were kind of hoping for when they made that blockbuster trade. The panel thinks if Mikal Bridges had taken that offensive leap last year, the Knicks genuinely could have beaten the Pacers in that playoff series and maybe even won an NBA championship. Unfortunately, it didn't happen last season, but this season opener was indicative of who Mikal has become as a more aggressive player. The First Take analysts wanted to show specific film clips of how the Knicks are able to get Bridges the ball in his spots. Speaking of ball movement, they're moving it exceptionally well. Stephen A. emphasized the basketball will always move faster than your defender can rotate, and this is exactly why the Knicks generated an open corner three-pointer on this possession. Nobody shoots the open corner three better in the entire league than Mikal Bridges, besides maybe OG Anunoby. For a shooter of Bridges' caliber, Stephen A. said, "This is just a layup. It's automatic when he's that open in the corner." The panel loved the ball movement they saw throughout the entire game. Then, of course, there was a nice little defensive sequence where the Cavaliers got double-teamed. Mikal was able to get the steal and immediately get out in transition. The Knicks want to do a ton of that all season. Just run in transition and push the pace. Stephen A. said this next play actually had him out of his seat in the studio watching live. He was that hyped when it happened. Mikal Bridges took a contested mid-range jumper over the outstretched arm of Evan Mobley, who's the reigning Defensive Player of the Year. Bridges just challenges Mobley straight up without trying to take him off the dribble. Mikal recognized that he had just enough space to get his shot off. You could see there's plenty of separation, and Bridges took full advantage of it. Mikal's got that high-arcing release on his jumper, and you're going to have that kind of touch to be able to get shots over Evan Mobley. Mobley is literally 7.1, jumping up with maximum effort. Stephen A. wanted everyone to look at this contest from Mobley. The ball's right there at the release point. and Mobley's follow-through is right on top of Mikal's shooting motion, but Bridges gets it over the outstretched arm. Mobley literally hits Bridges' hand at the top of his release, lands on him for the foul, and Mikal still makes the and-one basket. It's a huge momentum shot by Mikal Bridges. Stephen A. pointed out, the mid-range game is kind of dead in modern basketball analytics. Kawhi Leonard shoots mid-range jumpers consistently, and DeMar DeRozan obviously specializes in that area, but there aren't a lot of players who really work on that craft anymore. Mikal Bridges is absolutely one of those guys who can punish you from mid-range. The panel showed another clip where the Knicks are able to get out on the fast break again. OG Anunoby makes the extra pass for an easy layup. The Knicks are getting out in transition consistently, they're running at every opportunity, and Mikal's passing vision is creating opportunities. There was a play where Jericho Sims didn't have to make the extra pass, but did it anyway. And this is the thing about this Knicks team, according to the First Take analysis, there's no reason Sims really should have passed up that shot. You've got to go up strong at the rim with that positioning, but instead, Sims kicks it out to Karl Anthony Towns, who's cutting to the basket, and it created an awesome highlight. Towns threw down a reverse slam that brought the crowd to their feet. Speaking of Sims, the film showed him challenging a shot at the rim and getting the blocked shot rejection. Then OG Anunoby recovered the ball, and the Cavaliers' young player had to dribble it back out to reset. The Knicks completely stopped that Cleveland fast break. Stephen A. said if Sims just gets lazy and kind of lets the offensive player get away with an easy dunk, that's 2 points. But nope, Sims went up, challenged the shot, blocked it off the backboard. OG recovered possession. The Cavaliers player had to pull it back out to reset because Mikal was already back on defense and Sims was in perfect position. It's just great transition defense by the Knicks all around. A large reason you're seeing effort plays like this, according to the panel, is just because the Knicks got 11 different players legitimate rotation minutes. When the second quarter started, Mike Brown ended up playing 11 guys total. This team went deep into their bench, and everyone feels fresh and ready to compete. Players can work extra hard on every possession, knowing that they're not going to have to play 40 minutes for 82 consecutive games, like under Tom Thibodeau. That's what's so exciting about this new Knicks team. Jalen Brunson, with the slick dribble moves, gets downhill and lays it up and in for a bucket. Towns with a shot fake and the slam. That's why Stephen A. loves having Towns on this roster. You absolutely have to respect his shooting ability. Defenders have to jump in contest when Towns has the ball. Mobley probably is up there as well as one of the best shooting big men, but Towns is one of the best shooting centers in NBA history. You have to contest his shot, and the only way you can contest it properly is if you leave your feet. Towns fakes, the defender bites, Towns goes downhill, and now it's a 5-on-4 advantage. At that point, Towns just gets an easy dunk finish. Then Tyler Kolek made a play that had Stephen A. out of his seat again. If you don't know, the panel is very high on Kolek as a prospect. There were a lot of reports about the Knicks potentially moving Kolek in the offseason, but New York decided not to do it. They didn't have to make that move because Malcolm Brogdon retired, and the Knicks need someone to come in and facilitate. Mike Brown clearly trusts Kolek, and this play is exactly why he does. This is a veteran-type pass from a young player. Watch this film closely. Two defenders are collapsing. Kolek just bounce passes it down the lane to OG for the slam. The game just processes significantly quicker for Tyler Kolek than it does for a lot of other players at his age and experience level. Deuce McBride hit some timely shots throughout the game. Deuce was genuinely awesome according to the First Take breakdown. He really honestly kept the game under control when the Cavaliers tried to creep back into it a couple of times. OG knocking down a top-of-the-key three-pointer, Brunson going downhill and should have gotten the and-one call. Stephen A. couldn't believe that obvious foul wasn't called by the officials. Mikal is cutting to the basket and then kicks it back out to OG in the corner for another three-pointer. It's always interesting when teams make these decisions on film. The offensive player absolutely should not have taken that shot attempt, because that's Jarrett Allen meeting him at the rim. Donovan Mitchell also started to creep up on the help defense. Instead of just taking the contested layup, the Knicks player kicks it out for an open three-pointer. It's just funny how the modern NBA works. OG's ready in the corner like he's been waiting for that pass, and he knocks down the wide-open three. Deuce with the bounce pass to Jordan Clarkson, who gets downhill, makes the extra pass to Towns for the and one. Stephen A. wanted to point out something nobody really talks about: Clarkson's playmaking ability. This is a beautiful look that created an even higher percentage shot opportunity. Everyone assumes Clarkson's going to shoot it, because that's his reputation. But nope, he threads the needle and creates an even better look for his teammate. Now Towns, working against Mobley one-on-one in the post, cradles it up and in with a beautiful touch. What a move by Towns, a 7-footer doing that kind of footwork. The Knicks get out in transition off the steal, and Clarkson throws it down. You love to see Jordan Clarkson getting out in transition for the two-hand slam. Take a look at the Knicks bench reaction. They're just absolutely loving it. You could see Mohamed Diawara, Jericho Sims, and Guershon Yabusele out there celebrating together. The First Take crew joked about seeing Josh Hart on the bench in this footage. The Knicks ended up going up big early. Then they took Brunson out to rest him. The Cavaliers came roaring back, so Mike Brown took Brunson off the bench and put him back in the game. And then the Knicks went up big again. Stephen A. His point here is that even when Brunson isn't exactly hitting his shots efficiently, he's still creating opportunities and breaking down defenses with his penetration and passing. Brunson could literally go 1 for 9 from 3 like he did, and still be super impactful. He's one of the few players in the league who can do that offensively with his elite playmaking ability. The captain got it done when his team needed him, going 12 for 13 from the free throw line. It's so important and critical when your shot is off to be able to knock down free throws, and Brunson absolutely did that. Guershon Yabusele played 12 minutes and was a +4 in his minute. The panel thought he played solid defense. Stephen A. wasn't overly impressed with Yabusele in training camp and preseason. He thought Yabusele looked somewhat out of shape, but he actually looked pretty solid in the opener. Yabusele only took 2 shots and missed his only 3-point attempt, but still contributed positively. They talked about Trey Jemison's contribution. Jordan Clarkson's shot was off, but he was still a +4 with that transition dunk. Landry Shamet looked like an absolute Energizer bunny out there with his energy. This is what Shamet does. He just comes in, stays ready, and plays pestering defense. Donovan Mitchell was actively trying to get Shamet switched onto him off screens to attack that matchup. Although Mitchell was getting bucket, Shamet made him work for every single one. The least you can do as a defender is at least make a superstar work for their points. And the panel thinks Shamet does a great job of that with his effort level. Stephen A. said good offense is always going to beat good defense eventually. So you have to give credit to Donovan Mitchell for just going out there and being a stud performer. He would have loved to see Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson as teammates, though he doesn't know if that would really work schematically. How do you build around 2 score-first guards? But man, could you imagine Brunson and Mitchell together? That would be like one of the most unstoppable backcourt duos in NBA history, potentially. Stephen A. doesn't think Brunson would be quite as good with Mitchell, though. Because if you think about it, the Knicks have the perfect complementary pieces around Brunson right now. OG and Mikal don't really need the ball to be effective. And Towns is such a lethal shooter that he doesn't need to go one-on-one constantly. He spaces the floor and makes winning plays. Overall, looking at the stats, the Knicks ended up shooting 35% from 3, 43% from the field, and an excellent 86.1% from the free throw line. The Knicks were very good at shooting free throws last season, so that's not a surprise. They had 13 turnovers, 8 steals, and 4 blocks. The First Take panel thought the Knicks played legitimately good defense. The Cavaliers are a genuinely elite offensive team, so you can't expect New York to hold Cleveland to 85 points. That's just unrealistic. The pace of this game was pretty quick, significantly quicker than the Knicks had been accustomed to under Thibodeau's slower pace. Mike Brown went deep into his bench. The Knicks played fast, played good defense, and won a game where Brunson's shot was off. Stephen A. said he's going to give this Knicks performance an A grade. He really is. An A+ would have been if the Knicks were able to hold that early 14-point lead and just run away with it completely. But yeah, when you win by 8 points at home to kick off the season against a Cavaliers team that swept you last year, when your bench played exceptionally well and contributed, Stephen A. thinks this was an amazing game. He doesn't know what anyone could really complain about in this performance. The only thing you could critique is kind of letting up some leads in the second half, but that's just basketball. Playoff-caliber teams are never completely out of game. The Knicks themselves were down 20 points in Games 1 and 2 against the Celtics last playoffs and came back both times. So that was the full First Take film breakdown of how completely different the New York Knicks look under Mike Brown's coaching, with special emphasis on Mikal Bridges' increased aggression and the team's improved ball movement and transition play.